Hello, this is a celebration of cornbread. Cornbread has been a staple of not only Thanksgiving but other American holidays and meals. Today we'll discover the origins of this dish with an original Iroquois recipe. Of course, it all starts with maize, or as we call it today, corn. It was the most important product for the majority of Native American peoples, grown on the vast majority of indigenous farms, the main ingredient in many dishes, and incorporated into rituals far more frequently than any other crop. Archaeological evidence indicates that the first corn grew wild in Central and South America approximately 6,000 years ago. Through careful cultivation, peoples of that area cultivated the small corn into large corn stalks over a period of approximately 1,000 years. The first peoples to use corn in North America were the Mississippi peoples. In approximately 900 CE, the Mississippi created the farming technique known as the Three Sisters, where corn, squash, and beans were grown together. When planted beside each other, the vines from the bean plant grew up the corn stalk, and the leaves of the squash prevented weeds from growing. These three crops also replenished the nutrients in the soil. When they were eaten together, the enzymes of the three foods provided a very healthy and balanced diet. The technique revolutionized agriculture on the continent. The Three Sisters method of farming was the heart of the Northeast, Southeast, and Southwest Indians' diet. It was used less frequently in other parts of the continent where farming was less common, although those who adopted it in other regions flourished in ways that their non-farming neighbors did not. The people of every region and tribe had their own corn dishes. Typically, different types of corn were boiled, roasted, or ground into meal. Cornmeal was used in the same way as wheat flour. In the Southeast, corn was used in an even greater variety of ways. Southeastern women ground most of their corn into cornmeal and used their meal in countless recipes. Many traditional Indian corn recipes were adopted by European settlers and African slaves, with the dishes renamed as soul food. Sofki, a coarse cornmeal mush, was very popular among Southeast peoples. Sofki was renamed grits and became a staple of Southern cooking in the United States. A number of Southeast Indian tribes fried small pieces of cornmeal mixed with water in lard. When these fried cornmeal dumplings were adopted by Southern settlers, they were named hush puppies. In Southwest tribes, women made tortillas from cornmeal. Corn tortillas were eaten with almost every meal, commonly with boiled beans or stews. The Hopi Indians made a crispy, light, thin sheet of bread from blue cornmeal called piki. It was made by smearing a thin batter of water and cornmeal on oiled hot sandstone and covering it in juniper tree ashes. After a few seconds, the ashes were removed and the piki was completely cooked. Like tortillas, piki was often eaten with beans and stew. In the Northeast, Native Americans used unripe corn in stews and ripened corn for cornmeal. Cornmeal was ground to make a variety of cakes, mashes, and breads. Many tribes ate cornbread with almost every meal as an accompaniment to stew, and each one had their own recipe. For Iroquois cornbread, the women used a caustic lye solution to remove the hulls of the corn. The women would then grind the corn kernels with a wooden mortar and pestle, and then pass the cornmeal through a sieve until it was delicate flour. They then mixed this corn flour with water, shaped it into loaves, and boiled it in water until it was a firm cornbread. This is the recipe we're trying out today. For the cornbread we're making today, we'll only need 3 ingredients, but you can add others if you'd like. The main ingredient is obviously corn flour. I'm using maseca. You'll also need salt and warm water. If you have cornmeal, you can add some to give your cornbread some texture. I'm also adding dried blueberries. The Iroquois would add beans to their cornbread, but if they were looking for something sweeter, cranberries or blueberries would be added. I'll also be topping off my cornbread with maple syrup, since it's a sweetener that many Native Americans used. The only equipment you'll need is a bowl for mixing and a pot to boil water. I'm only using 4 ounces of corn flour, which will yield 4 small loaves. You'll need 1 to 2 cups of warm water, a teaspoon of salt, and approximately 2 tablespoons of cornmeal. The first thing I did was get my water heating to a boil. The loaves will need to be boiled right away when they're done being shaped. While the water is boiling, I measured out my flour, salt, and cornmeal. Mix your 3 ingredients together and make a crater in the middle. You'll slowly incorporate your warm water. Add a little at a time into the flour mixture. You might not end up using all your water. Once your flour resembles a wet paste, you can add your dried fruit or beans. When the mixture sticks to the side of the mixing bowl and holds together, take a palm-sized ball and press it together, back and forth between your hands, moving the cornbread in a circular motion, just like making a big hamburger patty. Once you've shaped your loaves, Carefully add them to the boiling water. They should sink when added to the water. They'll boil for approximately 10 minutes until they start to float to the top. You'll know the loaves are ready when they are floating at the top, much like raviolis. With all the blueberries in my cornbread, they resemble large chocolate chip cookies. While the loaves were still warm, I added butter and syrup. Now, butter is not something the Iroquois would have added to their cornbread, but it's okay to make it your own. The last thing left to do is enjoy.
Support public libraries. Like, share, and subscribe for more great videos.